Hi everyone, I hope you're well. So I've decided to sell and have secured the sale of my CRF 1100 Adventure Sport. Just thought I'd do just a quick video really, and sort of say why I've come to that decision and how I've come to that decision. I will say from the get-go that definitely on paper and spec, this is the best bike I've ever owned. It's the most valuable. It's got the most amount of tech. To be honest, I've never even had a bike with ABS before. It's probably the most comfortable, most versatile, the most technologically advanced. I mean, it's a subjective thing, but I also think it's a really good looking bike as well. Um, it's hard pushed these days, to be honest. I know there's one or two, all jokes aside, but you're quite hard pushed these days to actually buy a bad motorbike. But it's very easy to buy the wrong motorbike. And I did not buy the wrong motorbike for my needs at the time. It's just my needs have now changed. Um, Basically, I fell in love with the Africa Twin when I was 11 years old, and I saw I used to watch the Paris Dakar, and I fell in love with the XRV 650. But in England, because that bike wasn't sold over here, it was a little bit of a kind of poster bike. There's a lot of people that still haven't seen one. I only got to see one a couple of years ago when I bought my one. Um, if you're interested in seeing that, by the way, I've done a restoration on it and I've done a few videos. So yeah, feel free to have a look if you're into that. But yeah, the XRV, I fell in love with it when I was 11, but I never got to see the 650. But the very first one I actually saw was when I was on holiday, and it was a black XRV 750. And I said to my friend, because we used to see it every day parked outside a cafe, and I turned around to my friend on about the third day of the holiday. I think it was about 14, and I said, one day I'm going to have a black Africa Twin. And I then did my license and ended up going into sports bikes, as most people did, and never got around to getting one. So then fast forward to 3 years ago, and my dad had had quite a bad fall. I live 230 miles away from him. So I rushed to get there to see him, to get to the hospital, and it's a notoriously bad journey. I live in Devon, he's back in Kent. So it's, yeah, the A303 M25. So I went to rush back and it took 11 hours in the car, and I just decided I needed to get a motorbike again. And I needed a motorbike that could do 230 miles with spirited riding. And by that, I just mean accelerating up to the speed limit as hard and as fast as you can, just to get there and just to keep going and not have to stop and not have to refuel, which meant I needed a bike like realistically with a 300-mile fuel range to be able to do the 230 miles. So I looked up, and all the bikes had a 300-mile range, and the Africa Twin was one of them. And I just thought, now's the time. Now is the time. I can get an Africa Twin. They do them in black, and it does the mileage that I want. So that's why I bought it. I actually bought it. It's a horrible reason to buy a bike, but I bought it so that I had a fighting chance to get to say goodbye to my dad when the time came. Um, yeah, the bike has now done its job, so I don't need the 300-mile range anymore. With regards to having a 300-mile range, I've got to be honest, in the UK, it's pointless. You're never going to go 300 miles without being anywhere near a petrol garage. Um, and to be honest, doing 300 miles in one hit is a bad idea. You can do it, obviously, but you're going to arrive tired, irritable, and for the last sort of hour or so, your reaction times are going to be down. So it's just not really a good idea. I did do from here to Kent once, 230 miles. It was, unfortunately, it took 6 hours because it was continuous filtering. Traffic was awful. And yeah, I arrived absolutely broken and saddle sore. And it's not how I'd normally arrive when I stop and have breaks. So with regards to that, I think it's just a bit unnecessary in the UK. It can be handy, but the thing that a lot of people forget is if you're riding solo or just with a pillion, then yeah, that range can be quite handy. But if you're riding with other people, like I ride with my wife, she's got Transalp XL 750, then she's stopping for fuel every kind of 180 miles. So I'm going to be stopping for fuel. So it's pointless, absolutely pointless having that range unless you like really need it like I did. So yeah, also the whole time you're carrying around that massive fuel tank, I rarely ever fill it up because of the weight. Once you fill that tank up, it's a hell of a lot of weight. So that's another reason it's just a little bit pointless having a huge fuel tank, lugging it around all the time, and I'm not even filling it up. With regards to the bike, though, I mean, I've done 20. Oh, well, the bike, sorry, has done 20, nearly 22,000 miles. It had 4,500 miles on it when I bought it. Oh, sorry, just touched the alarm. Um, and yeah, I mean, for nearly 22,000 miles, and I mean, it's a late 2019 plate, and this bike has been off road. Yeah, not all the time, very, very occasionally, and only light off road, but it gets ridden all year round for all the winters, everything. So yeah, it's not in bad condition. I think the new owner's got a really good buy there. Um, so yeah, I mean, it is a lovely bike, but back to the XRV, falling in love with the Africa Twin. So I'll just put the camera back there. As to back to that, when I then bought this bike, I at very first, like the first couple of days, I was really pleased, really happy I'd finally got my black Africa Twin. But when I went back to Kent for the first time, I met a couple of friends at a pub. They don't ride bikes, but they came over, had a look at the bike and said, "Oh, well, that's lovely, like it's massive," which it is. It is a big bike. And I said, "Yeah, I've always wanted a black Africa Twin." And as I said it, when you get that really sad sort of stomach churning kind of feeling, and I just knew it wasn't the Africa Twin I'd always wanted. And also never having any tech on a motorbike and then going to this, yeah, it's just not me. It's just not something I enjoy. I don't like having to agree that I've read the manual or all that kind of thing. I think the tech personally is quite dangerous because of just how distracting it is. I did notice straight away on the bike that instead of just riding, looking where I'm going and checking my mirrors, an occasional speed check, because you tend to know what speed you're doing anyway, just from gears and revs. But instead of just looking where I'm going and looking in the mirror, I had to find myself looking where I'm going, looking at the screen, looking where I'm going, looking at the buttons, looking at the road again, putting my finger on the button, looking down to see if I got my finger on the right button, looking ahead, looking at the screen, checking that the button has pressed, done what I've wanted. It's so distracting. And for me, it ruins the escapism because every time I need to have sat nav, I have to plug my phone into it. And then that means that I'm getting text messages and phone calls. And whether you answer them or not, it's just the fact that now you're back to the real world. And if it's someone from work, you're now thinking about work again. It just kind of ruins the escapism for me. Um, I'm not knocking the bike. It is an amazing bike. Like I say, it is the best bike I've ever owned, and I've never really owned a bike more than about 2 years. I tend to get bored and move them on, but I've had this for 3.5 years, so that does say a lot for it, I must admit. So yeah, the bike goes this Saturday, and I've already partly secured a black XRV. It is on the other side of the country, which in the UK is like 25 minutes away. No, it's about 4.5 hours away, but it is quite a low mileage one. It's a 2000 a year, 2000, I think, and it's only done 18,000 miles, and it's got a lot of history with it. So yeah, I'm quite looking forward to going and having a look at it and hopefully picking it up. I'll show you once I got it. I know people are going to think I'm mad getting rid of this for Jesus, a 25-year-old motorbike, but you know what it's like. You just got to those bikes or cars or vehicles, whatever that you've always wanted. You've got to get them at once. And I know it is a little bit spoiled because I got the XRV 650, which, in all honesty, I still can't believe I've got one. Like I say, it was a bit of a poster bike. This was the first one I ever saw. Um, and yeah, I'm so pleased. And that's part of the reason why I'm getting rid of this, because I was genuinely worried all the time I was restoring this bike that once it was built, I wouldn't enjoy riding it. And I love it so much. I find it smoother, more comfortable, just an absolute pleasure to ride. And it just makes me smile. which is something that CRF never does. And it's simply because of the tech. Every time I turn the ignition on, I just get this kind of feeling where I've just got to go through, agreeing to the manual and agreeing to this and turning this off and turning that, and it annoys me. I don't like it. So yeah, I'm getting the XRV RDO 7 for more sort of winter and everyday kind of use. I did say I was going to use the 650 as a normal bike and go off road, but now it's built. If you look at the videos, you'll see it. I just can't bring myself to use it throughout winter when there's salt on the road. And to be honest, the way it looks, it'd be silly to do that right away. So I just want another XRV for just everyday kind of use. So that's why the CRF is going. If you are thinking about one of these, don't let me put you off. If you're into tech, if you're used to tech, if you like that sort of thing, it's an amazing bike, and I have really enjoyed it. But the difference between the CRF and the XRV is, if the CRF was stolen, I'd be really annoyed that I've got to pay higher insurance for 5 years. That'd be it. There'd be no upset that actual bike had gone. Whereas with the XRV, if that got stolen, I would be so upset that the actual bike has gone. And again, I think it's just a tech thing for me. It makes it a bit like a smartphone, where they're extremely clever. You use them all the day, all the time, every day. You enjoy using them. But when it comes to the upgrade, you're never sad to see your old smartphone go. It's just gone. It's just an upgrade, gone. You don't care. And that's how I feel with this. And I've got to be honest, it's one of only 2 bikes I've ever felt like that about. All my other bikes I've just loved, and this I just can't love it. I like it. It's a great bike, but my heart's just with the XRV now. So yeah, that is why I'm selling my CRF. I will be sad to see it go though, I must admit, simply because of the looks. She's a bit of a chunky monkey, but she's a good girl. She is a good girl. So yeah. Anyway, I hope that's been in some way, shape, or form helpful or informative. Probably not, but that's my channel for you. So anyway, you take care. Hope to see you soon, and yeah, bye bye.